Hey, it's Jeff with BBQ Plus, and today we cooked up this wonderful little appetizer. This is a smoked tri-tip that we did on this little Green Mountain grill. Put them on some toasted baguettes. We've got some cream cheese on there and a chimichurri that I mixed up to put on top. These things are absolutely fantastic. We're going to go watch some football, cheer on the Seahawks as they're ready to go into the Super Bowl after the win today, and eating these with the neighbors. So watch exactly what we did to put this together. All right, so let's get started here. This is a tri-tip, not a very big one, but a small one, farm raised from right here in the area where I live. And we're going to start out by marinating that. And we're going to start out by putting a little bit of a binder on there, a little bit of W sauce that we're just going to put on each side. There we go. And then I'm going to put on some salt, pepper, garlic. And this is just a Suckle Buster's salt, pepper, garlic mixture. Kind of treating this a little bit like a brisket. As far as the seasoning's going, we're going to hit it pretty hard because we're going to cut this up into pretty small pieces. So we're not going to get much of the edges really on each one of the little appetizer pieces. So a lot of seasoning is not going to be a problem. This is going to go into the smoker. I'm using a little Green Mountain. This is a Davy Crockett. This little guy is ready to go. We're just going to put him on here. We're running at 250 degrees inside of there. And I've used a hickory inside the hopper. Again, 250 degrees. We're just going to let that go. We're going to look for about 125, 130 degrees internal temperature on there. I'm going to check it periodically. And while that's doing its thing inside of there for a couple of hours, we're going to make a nice topping for this, a little bit of chimichurri that we're doing from scratch. So for the chimichurri, this is just got a bunch of parsley. I think that's about 6 tablespoons that I chopped up nice and fine there. That looks good. And then we've got probably about 3 teaspoons, maybe a little bit more, and that's of garlic. Chop that up as well. Now I've got some red pepper flakes, some crushed red pepper. I did grind that up a little bit with a mortar and pestle just to kind of make sure that it's really a little bit finer. Drop that in. That's probably a half a teaspoon. A little bit of smoked paprika. That again is probably about a half teaspoon. And then I probably got about a teaspoon or so of oregano. So we're going to put all those together. We're going to use my handy dandy olive oil dispenser. Put some in there, and we've also got some red wine vinegar that we're going to add in as well. A bit more. We're going to start to stir that up. And I'm doing this well ahead of time because I want to make sure to give enough time for all these flavors to really meld together. Well, that's looking pretty good. I think we're going to want a little bit more olive oil in there. You can do these in a blender if you want to really make it fine. I kind of like it when you got a little bit more of a chunkiness to it. We're just going to put a little bit of a dollop on the top of this little appetizer that we're doing with the tri-tip. And I would say an important football game that's being played today here in my home state of Washington. Seattle Seahawks are hopefully going to be victorious over the Rams, and that'll take them to the Super Bowl. Right now there's another game going on. Denver is playing against New England, so we'll find out who we're going to face. I'm saying that with confidence, but very excited for that. Going to finish this appetizer off, bring it across the street with the neighbors, and we're all going to cheer on the Seahawks. Look at that. We are doing well on this. Let's probe in and see what our temperatures are. Yeah, we're hitting over 140 degrees. So we are definitely there with our temperature. I think it's time to take these off, cut them, and put them together. All right, we finished up the cook on here. It was probably just under 2 hours. We wanted to get to about 145 or so degrees. I think I might have gone a couple degrees over on part of it. Then gave it about 15 minutes to rest underneath this aluminum foil. Looks really good. Now what we have to do is just cut into this guy. And we're going to cut just some really nice little pieces, probably 3/8 of an inch or so. That looks very good. We're going to taste this little end piece and see what we've got. The meat is really good. That tri-tip turned out really well. The salt, pepper, garlic on there tastes great. And I think that there's enough of this around the edges to give some good flavor to it. So I'm going to cut the rest of this up, but we're going to try kind of the finished product here. What I did inside the house, because it's really warmer than it is out here in January, is I toasted up some baguettes, just cut them down into little pieces, toasted them up, sprayed it on there with olive oil like that, with that handy little dispenser that I've got, put a little bit of cream cheese on each one of them, and then we're just going to simply put a nice little piece of tri-tip on each one and fill this tray up to bring over to the neighbors. And what we're going to do is add a little bit of chimichurri. So how much chimichurri do you use? Well, you use one giraffe spoon of it. If you don't have a giraffe spoon, I guess you just have to figure it out. But just a little bit there, that just makes a nice little appetizer there. That is really good. Really liking that. The chimichurri definitely has a kick to it, but then the meat is done just great too with that tri-tip. A little bit of crunch comes from the baguette that's underneath, and then that cream cheese down underneath it really adds just kind of ties it all together a little bit. Nice flavor. A tri-tip was just a little bit chewy. I'm not sure if I would use tri-tip again. I might use something like a fillet. I think that would be really good, especially if you do like we do, where you get the big long loin and then you cut it up into individual steaks, wrap a string around there. You've got some of those pieces on the end that end up getting a little bit small to really do a nice fillet round. Those would be great to be able to hold on to some of those and make a nice little appetizer like this with it. I'm going to cut these fairly thin, so they'll be a little bit easier to eat, I think. All right, some of those are, got to find the bigger ones to put on the bigger baguettes. Some of these slices are pretty good size, so you got to kind of match them to the size of the baguette that you're using. I probably also did a cardinal sin of cutting up this tri-tip, which was because the tri-tip is two different muscles that go two different directions. When I was cutting this up, I didn't pay close enough attention to make sure that I was going cross grain. They would have been a little bit more tender if I would ensure that each one of these slices were cut cross grain. Those came out really good. Take a look at that chimichurri on there. The tri-tip looks great. Baguettes are done just nice, and a little bit of cream cheese that kind of mellows it out in there. So doing a little bit of follow-up here. I noted that when I first tasted these, they seemed a little bit tough. I didn't cut it across the grain like I probably should have. We brought them over to the football watching party across the street, popped them in the microwave for about 10-15 seconds, and that warmed them back up, and I think they were really, really awesome. They weren't tough at all. People really enjoyed them. I think one of the tricks there is to make sure you cut them fairly thin, but that chimichurri on the top, people just absolutely loved them, and I think this is just a fantastic appetizer. Everybody loved it in the neighborhood. They said it was probably one of the best things that I've ever made, and I've made a lot of appetizers, a lot of them that I think are really good too. So that speaks volumes. So now I just got to figure out what I'm going to cook up for the big Super Bowl party that we've got going in a couple of weeks here. Pretty excited and cheering on the Seahawks. It's going to be great. If you like what I'm doing here, I would appreciate if you would give it a thumbs up, like, subscribe on there, and maybe share it with a friend, somebody else who is getting ready to figure out what they're going to cook in their backyard this weekend and for the upcoming Super Bowl. Go Hawks! And from Barbecue Plus, thanks for watching.